how do you time manage? How do you time block? Like how do you, as the founder, as the like all of these hats that you're wearing, how do you handle that?
Yeah, I get asked this question a lot. In fact, it may be the most common question I get asked. And my answer is probably very different than most people. I hear people, say time block and, different organizational strategies. How many assistants do you have? What I essentially do is I run everything off of, again, I'm a data scientist, right? So I run everything off of dashboards, right? So it's kind of an interesting way to run things. So because everything I run is operational and actually has inputs and outputs, I will run every part of my day through dashboard-based information. So I'll give you an example that's applicable to anybody watching this, which is marketing, right? So you look at marketing, we have to market our company, we have to market what we do across all the companies I run. And now the world of digital marketing, it's super complicated, right? How is your digital approach working? How many, users are actually interacting? What phase of conversion or enrollment are they towards your company? I'd say for the last 20 years, this has been a very fuzzy kind of topic, right? People don't clearly link things up. It's not like it used to be before the digital, push of this. But now, if you actually connect and actually tag all of your data effectively, you can build Sankey diagrams, things of that nature, and actually design, hey, I had 150,000 users hit these websites. These were our journey responses. Here's what happened next with the intervention. Here's what the next step was. And frankly, only in the last 2 years are you seeing platforms built to support this, but we built this before it even existed, right? So it's about controlling data. It's not easy to do. I mean, I totally get that. This is kind of a weird way of looking at things, but when you have your finger on the pulse of how operations are going across every one of your companies, you actually don't worry that much, right? Because you don't have too many emergencies. If you see, and again, where this comes from is my background, again, as an ICU person. I'm looking at vital signs. I'm looking at how someone's doing in their sickest of states. I'm looking at pure numbers. And I could tell, usually within 2 to 3 minutes looking at a patient in the ICU, exactly how stable are they, what's going to happen to them for the next hour to 6 hours. I use that same model when I'm dealing with anything I'm looking at across business, professional, personal life, or whatever. And it takes work because you have to literally go there and build what you want on your dashboard and say, what is the information that's critical for me to know that the vital signs of my company, my personal life, my social life, whatever it may be, are good and doing well. And ultimately, if you do that, then you build your schedule around what those needs may or may not be.
As you said, you also made a lot of mistakes earlier on. So could you kind of go through what was the initial process? Like when you got that first venue, the Paradise Garden, and you were just learning everything. What were some of those first kind of mistakes that you made right out of the gate that now looking back, you're like, oh gosh, that was a rookie mistake?
1, market research and zoning. And I stress this to all my clients because I'm going to be completely honest, as I'm honest with them. My first venue got shut down because it was not zoned properly. And I mean, when I tell you, I took just a dilapidated piece of land and turned it into a garden oasis. I mean, I literally got out there, planted flowers, built things, put all my sweat equity in it. And then you find out, because you went by, the property owner was like, oh, it was a social club, so you can do it. No, there's a complete difference, so that was very devastating for me to put all my sweat equity in it, thousands of dollars, and not be able to operate the venue. So that was the first major lesson, that taught me from the beginning, zoning. You need to go to zoning. You need to make sure and follow what their guidelines. And I tell my clients now, because this is another thing, zoning will come out. They will tell you one thing. Fire marshal will come out and tell you another thing. Get those two entities in there together and hash it out while they're there, because you'll just be a vicious cycle. And so that's why when we did our second venue, we were so much more successful, because I had all the failures, not marketing properly. Like I said, not going to zoning, not understanding the whole process of, upselling and things of that nature. You hear people all the time tell you, oh, I make 30, 40, 50, 60,000 in a month. It's just not from bookings. It's from upsells, and people do not realize that. And I did not realize that in the beginning. So I also acquired a rental company at the time. And so that allowed me to upsell linens, backdrops, uplighting, all kinds of things. So the first one, believe me, it was a huge learning curve. I made so many mistakes, but the major mistake was not going to zoning and being shut down.
The key word that keeps coming up over all these years, and other people who've been surrounding us and, gone this journey with us and stuff, is perseverance. I mean, for any kind of business, I feel like that is, you have to have perseverance to get through it, and don't give up. If that's what your dream is, I mean, this is what you want, there is a way, and there will be a way made if that's, what you really want. And we feel like this has been something that we've kind of, not to get too deep, but called to do, just because, we're very strong in our faith and stuff, and we've had people alongside us praying for us, and not once has anybody ever said this is a bad idea, or that we don't, or it's time to give up, or no. Everybody has continued to surround us and be positive about it and praying for us and all. But feels like this is our calling, to serve the community of Suffolk, Virginia, and to serve, the surrounding community, and with our giftings of what we do. And
I love that. I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. It makes a big difference.
Don't be afraid to admit that you're not the best person for something. And I think that's what I've learned, especially when it comes to the venue. I was not the best person to show the venue. I was not the best person to sell a bride or a groom on what their vision was, but I was the one that was in that position because that's what we had to do. And that's what prompted us to think, who else could do this? What else? And so when someone mentions something casually, oh, what does that mean? I'm going to explore that further. I think if we think we can do it all, we're going to find out we can't. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but one day you'll find out you can't. And I think it's worthy to sacrifice a little in the long run to get the right team in there. And if you force someone to do something, you're probably not going to get the same results. But if someone's passionate and desirable about something, you're going to see a way better end result and package based on that desire to perform rather than the force to perform and the force to do something. So that would be my closing words, is like, don't be opposed to thinking you're not the number one person to sell your space or to sell an area or an amenity. So keep an open mind is all.
Yeah, delegation is absolutely huge, and I love that, man.
Something I was struggling with in my corporate job was I want to be in charge of my own thing. But what was that thing? I don't know, because I felt like I didn't really have any, this sounds so bad to say about myself now, but I'm sure a lot of other people feel this way. I felt like I didn't really have any markable skills. Is somebody who can manage and lead a skill? Absolutely. But at the time, when you're thinking about starting a small business, you don't think of that as marketable and something to take to the market. So anyway, my mom said to me, Leah, I don't want you to think about the type of business you want to open. I want you to think about what skills do you want to do every day. She said, do you want to work at a desk all day behind a computer? Do you want to interface with people? Do you want to design stuff? Do you want to be on your feet all the time? Do you want to work outside? Do you want to have a product that you sell? Do you want to be on the road? Do you want to travel? What does that look like for you? So I started to kind of literally write down okay, I literally wrote, I want to be in charge of something. That's literally what I said.
It's really easy to feel like you need to add things to your space. And sometimes you don't need to add things, but you just need to fine tune them. And that's where we are right now. Is we've got a great space. Couples are loving it. Let's just fine tune it so it's easier for us to manage and easier for our couples to plan their day. And that's where we are right now.
Like that, where else are you getting insight and advice on a maybe venue level, but then also maybe general business level as well?
Yeah, I actually think that from the wedding industry perspective as a venue owner, some of the best information that I can find is by looking at other vendors that are not wedding owners, like venue owners. So looking at photographers, looking at wedding planners, things of that nature, because while they're not your client, your client sometimes finds them first, or they're like more excited about those particular people. And so I find that like looking at my venue as a photographer or talking to those other vendors on what they want to see in a space, it allows for me to better create my package, my offerings. They see all different venues and all different models, and that can kind of be a unique way to look at things that can allow you to grow faster. And then, I mean, I wish there were more podcasts like this. I'm a big podcast listener. I would love to listen to more things that are talking specifically in the wedding industry, but I would just say like following other vendors on social media, venues as well, where you can see kind of the behind the scenes, how they're doing things, and doing your research, you know, like going to other venues' websites and looking at what their model is, how are they having success. It's not going to give you everything, but it can give you a little bit, and then not being afraid to reach out.
And so if anybody's trying to figure out what they should do to try to be able to hold people a little bit more accountable, first thing that you should do just to eliminate overwhelm is there's a saying that it's automate, eliminate, and delegate, right? So look at your list. One time I took every single thing that I did for my company, and first you say, well, what can I eliminate and just like not do anymore? Eliminate some things, like maybe you quit a group. Or for me, I had an entire marketing company that I shut down that dealt with wedding vendors, and I was like, I gotta make some hard choices, and that one didn't make the cut. And so you eliminate things, and then you delegate things. So when I delegate things, I like for people to be autonomous in their role, and I like for them to be in complete control over it.
Which also, I feel like for any business owner, therapy is key to not losing your mind. Because people will make those comments, and it's so hard, especially as a venue owner, when it is so much of your personality and your heart and soul in this business, to separate, you know, yourself from the criticism of your business and to create that wall, because in some regards you can't, because you always have to have an element of yourself in your business, because it's who you are in some regards. But then putting up those safe boundaries of like, okay, they're going to have this feedback, they're not going to like this, and just be okay with that. And I think that kind of goes back to like, I grew up as the weird kid. I'm still the weird kid, and my venue is going to be the weird kid venue, and I have to be okay with that. Like when they said it when I was 12, it really hurt my feelings. They still say it when I'm 31, and it hurts my feelings, and it's going to be okay.
Well, hey, like Steve Jobs said, it's the weird ones sometimes that change the world. Right? So
Here's to the weird ones.
I almost think anybody can be creative, and anyone can host a wedding. Anyone can be a planner, but not everyone can be or maybe not everyone can be a planner, depending on the level of, I want to take that back to all the planners out there. I didn't mean it. Because like the nuts and bolts is what I'm talking about, right? There's like the superficial planners that do day of, and they get to hang out and do like the fun stuff, but the real nuts and bolts planning and organizing and the staffing and all of that stuff, like it really takes a person who has some experience, or you're going to take your lumps, and it's not going to be fun until you develop those systems. And that's why like anyone who's like, hey, I need help with this, I'm like, hey, just call this guy and take some money. Like you don't want to do the work and like, the money you're going to give him, you're just going to have to give other vendors or other employees, or you're going to pay that cost no matter what. But you're going to have a learning curve to do it. I'm like, hey, this manages venues.